Hi, my name is Phyll, also known as Lady Phyll, and my pronouns are she, her. I am the co-founder and executive director of UK Black Pride, Europe's largest celebration for LGBTQ people of African, Asian, Caribbean, Latin American, Middle Eastern descent, and in support of Zanele Muholi's up-and-coming exhibition at Tate Modern. UK Black Pride is working with Tate Exchange to deliver a week-long program of events that explores two themes important to both organizations: love and home. Now, I have got somebody amazing, somebody who I'm inspired by, somebody who's uplifting and motivating that I'm going to be in conversation today with. And there's so much about this unique, beautiful person that I couldn't possibly do it justice, but their name, Muholi, a visual arts activist, which does so much to create and distort the narrative of who we are, showing bodies, showing lives, being so bold and brave and radical, and subjects which are very bold and radical. I want to introduce Muholi to you. Muholi, can you just introduce yourself, because I know I can never do justice to, all the accolades and achievements.
Name is Muholi Zanele Muholi. I'm from Durban, South Africa. That's where I work currently, and I live in Johannesburg as well, where I do most of the work. I'm a visual activist. All we do with the work that we produce is to push a political agenda that is visible to ensure that our voices, faces, bodies are heard by those who previously silenced us. I work with Inkanyiso, which writes visual history, content that is produced by us for us. And they also work with Muholi arts projects in which I give a space to people who might not have access or might not have jobs that are art related. So we produce content that fits into all that I do in order for people to have some wages or salaries. I also personally create some content from Muholi Productions per se, which is my company. Also that looks at visual content specifically. There's so much written text, there's less visual arts related, activism related content. So we produce that. And most of the work that I've produced has been seen in a number of spaces. So I'm trying to create spaces promoting arts activism and also to give a platform to some individuals who might not have been seen before in those spaces. So we're just pushing an agenda throughout.
Well, look, I'm looking forward to our conversation and wherever it goes, but it's really great that we've got this opportunity to really tell those who are listening, who are so keen and interested to know more about your work and thinking about the his stories, the her stories, the their stories, and how we're not always very well represented. And hopefully that really does a lot to highlight how the Tates are doing this work with grassroots organizations to not be performative, but really make sure that the amplification of our stories, as you said, our agenda is real. Now, Zanele, I've spent time with you, and people may not know, but you flew me over to Durban for your homecoming. I was so moved when I got that phone call about just coming to your homecoming. I'm like, oh, time, I'm not sure if I can do it. And you said, you really want me there. That moment I hit in Durban and everything I experienced was so life-changing for me, because people do not see the Muholi behind the camera. They do not know that they create spaces, they work with young people, they support, they make sure people are fed, they make sure people are safe. and there's such a togetherness. I want you to talk to us about what did it mean to have your homecoming in Durban?
I think it was more like going home per se, because I have worked in Johannesburg for too long. And I felt that many people in Natal did not have a sense of the work that I was doing. So I was going home to introduce myself to some fewer individuals who might not have sense of the work that I was doing. Yeah, so being at home also brought a lot to me, specifically because I got to be introduced to a number of people that I wasn't aware of the existence or the work that they were doing. It was more of a learning curve for me, and also to be connected with individuals that were doing work that is known but not like out there in the radar. So it wasn't an easy task to even come up with a show and connecting with the people of the province. And it was more like me starting afresh to say, this is me, this is the work that I do. And also begging people to be part of that initiative was also a huge task. So as we learn every day, things are never easy, and you need support of a number of people to make sense. So I'm trying every day is a lesson, or every day I learn. Though I could say bluntly that it's never an easy task.
You know, I normally start off with conversations with people I love and who are dear to me by asking them a simple question that is often hard to answer. But right now, how is your heart?
My heart, I've been offbeat for the past 10, 11 months. And people keep on asking me like one common question: how do you take care, or how do you deal with self-care? And I keep on saying that I haven't mastered that. I don't know what that is. And I guess that it's what's like bed out a lot of activists who came before us, who are no longer like active because they got tired, and the work and like making decisions sometimes can become like, it could be a painful process. So how am I doing? How's my heart? I'm just floating, not quite like stable to be precise, because so much has happened in the past few months, and I'm trying to heal. You know, even like deciding of who to work with and how to work with, it's something else. And preparing for the Tate show and deciding on the number of individuals that I wanted to work with, of which I said it bluntly that I wanted to work with your team. So when asked what would you like to do in London during your show, and I said, I may like to work with Lady Phyll, hence they contacted you. Then it became something else because we have engaged before. So how's my heart? My heart's just like, yeah, no, I'm healing, or I'm in pain till I get it right, because you never know what tomorrow holds for anybody. Yeah.
Well, I hope that healing process is the one you want it to be. And sometimes things take time. I think given your work and the amounts of things that you are navigating, as you said, the people you work with, making sure that there's no room for toxic things to, inform or ill-inform decisions that you need to make. I'm just so honored and glad that you chose to work with UK Black Pride, and that we're doing this in conjunction with the Tate Exchange. It's just a beautiful thing to now witness what is going to be coming about for this whole week-long activity. So,
you know why that decision? That decision came about with like seeing there are people who are doing different things out there. There are a number of individuals who are doing amazing work in London, people that I've met, like Natasha, Mumba, and Minnie, and many people, that I met when I was in London. And I just thought to myself, I get to be in a number of galleries and museums, and those museums hardly have Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to those spaces, like, you wonder, who is my audience really? And who I get to be in conversation with. The space is beautiful. The work gets to be seen by like large number of individuals who come to the museums, but our people really cannot afford to be at those museums and those galleries. Maybe the galleries are free, but most of the time they are far away from where people live, where Black people live or people of color live. A number of people work, like 6 to 6. And the thought of being at the museum and at the gallery, it becomes a luxury, because you think to yourself, when will I get time to even see the show that is dear to me? Then you have a number of like beautiful, talented individuals who are under-resourced and who are often silenced in a number of ways. And you think of like art fund that is out there, they do not have access to it. So what's your responsibility as an activist, is to make sure that there's access for almost everybody to be there. Two, as activists and people are active in what makes sense to us and our identities, we don't connect between the arts and activism. So there's a need of like speaking with one voice, then to separate the two, to say, okay, we're gonna push the LGBTI agenda one side, and then they're going to push the arts agenda on the other side. But we should be speaking to the non-converted, especially in those art spaces where people hardly hear the voices of the LGBTIs. Sometimes you find that they are our own who work within those institutions, but they do not have great support to speak openly without the fear of being judged or of being sidelined within the institutions. So we need to continuously ensure that, in as much as LGBTI conferences are important, also the art spaces are important too. So we speak to those individuals who are not aware of the queer agenda or the trans agenda or the LGBTI agenda as a whole. Because then what do you do with the LGBTI talented individuals? They can only exist when there's a poster that needs to be created that will give that person 500 pounds or 500 euros because they are great and therefore they've made it as the poster of the year or the Pride poster. I mean, come on, there's a whole lot there that LGBTI people are capable of doing. But then where are the resources? Where are the spaces to showcase their work? And it can only happen when there's that conference that exists once a year, or two conferences that exist twice a year.
Absolutely. And, and I relate to so much that you've just said there in creating spaces, in making sure that if you have a platform, how do you open doors for others to not be a gatekeeper and it's for a select few? In making sure that 365 days of the year that we're talking about our queerness, that we're talking about our struggles, the struggles on our body, the struggles on our minds, that we're making sure that we are always using our voices in so many different ways. And the beauty of what you do is about documenting that and archiving that and making sure that we can see it, because often we don't see ourselves in these galleries and museums unless it's a one picture of somebody talking about enslavement or slavery or what happened before colonization. And it doesn't often portray us in the very nuance and complexities of who we are as Black queer people, as people in different relationships. It doesn't show Black love or Black joy. And I hope that when people see your exhibition, that they are moved to their core the way that I have been constantly. And, you know, this is a segue for me to ask you a question about, you know, difficult love. Difficult love, when I started watching it, I have to admit, I had to stop at certain points because I was triggered. And for those also who are watching, we give a trigger warning because of how it may make you feel, what you will see around, you know, brutality to our bodies. Now, difficult love is beautiful, and it also feels very intimate, and it's a thoughtful exploration of why love becomes difficult. So can you really talk to us about your motivation behind making difficult love?
Difficult Love is a documentary that I did exactly 10 years ago. I just wanted to produce a documentary that related to my work. I was requested by someone who wanted to tell my story, and he happened to be a good, nice guy who is a South African, like white race. He was kind enough to say, I'm interested in what you do, and can we do a documentary on you? And I had to seek for advice from different individuals to say that, who then suggested that we do it together. So then we did together because I didn't want to be done. I had to make sure that I tell my story than to have someone tell it on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So SABC came on board, the South African Broadcasting Corporation commissioned the piece, and then we worked on it. Other than that, I would not have afforded it if I paid for it myself, because I didn't have those resources to cover 2 weeks of documenting. Difficult Love tells my story as a visual activist, the people that I had in my life at that time, my family members who featured in the documentary, and most of them have passed, from my nephew to my mother, already passed at that time, and my sisters who are also featuring in that documentary. That space where I grew up, which is like emotionally archived in the documentary. The people that I flexed with, the community members, the people that I respect, like each and everybody who is featuring in that documentary, made it possible. You know, because sometimes when we project this work or have it exhibited in a number of spaces, we tend to forget the people behind the scenes, forget the people who are in front of the camera, that I refuse to call subjects, but the participants in those documentaries, in the documentary, who share their own voices, who share their own concerns, who are now in a totally different phase in their lives. Because we think of a person who was 19 at that time, who's now like 29 years old, whose way of processing information is completely different than then. Then I have individuals like Ufuneka Soldat, who is a stalwart in the LGBTI community, who has fought like tirelessly, who shared own thoughts on why the work needed to be shared and told, and also be further archived, who's got own book now, which is called The Journey Uhambo. So I was humbled by, you know, people's responses in the documentary. But this is a documentary in which just one person is telling a story, and how this story connects the soul with many other individuals. So Difficult Love is my life, you know, story, shared with and by other people that I love and respect, of course. And also you have participants in a number of projects that I've produced over a period of time who are in it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, you're just saying it lightly. I know that there has been so much motivation and willingness to really tell your story in that way. And it couldn't have been easy, you know, especially at a time when there's always so much resistance to who we are and what we need to say, and how we constantly are, you know, I go back to that word, navigating so much in trying to make sure we're seen, and as you say, document, but also having to deal with whether it's state violence, whether it's the difficulties and the discrimination that's faced by individuals, whether it's the churches, whether it's parliamentarians, whoever it may be. We're always trying to find ways to make sure that we justify our existence. You do it without apology. And I very much like to think that UK Black Pride is centered around celebrating who we are without apology, without judgment. So again, for those who don't know, what are the particular difficulties that LGBTQ people and our siblings faced in South Africa?
There's a number of people. Then there are people like us, you and I, who at least have access to other individuals to reach out to. There are individuals who do not have access at all, you know, who've never been to so many spaces that you and I have had access to. Common challenge. I think like access to education is a major thing, because once you're educated and have information, you're able to navigate a number of spaces and you're able to speak out because you know where to call or who to refer, whatever case that you might have to, in case you don't have that immediate help. Hate crime is a major problem on this end. Just a few months ago in Feb, there was a young person who was brutally murdered in this province in Durban, which was one of the painful deaths for a young person who is queer or who's just like trying to make a living as a musician. And the person's name was Lindo Ele. That was one of the painful, you know, cases. And then as we're still trying to process that, there's another young person who was a mother, left a 10-year-old. Gugu Mkaka was also killed, but nobody would tell whether that was a hate crime or not. But the fact that we have lost a member of the community also means that just that one loss is way much. Ongoing name calling, the insults that some people are facing also becomes a huge problem. There is an organization that works hand in hand with the government and also a number of organizations in the province called Trans Hope, and it's led by a young trans person by the name of Sazi Jali. She's mobilizing like tirelessly, and she's heads on when it comes to this information. She has like major statistics, you know, that of a number of cases that were reported to her organization. Also challenged with like some youth at school who are coming out and trying to find their way, you know, their space in the world, which is not sometimes so welcoming, you know? Like basic things that has happened in your generation, my generation, like people want to go to school as comfortable as much as possible, wearing whatever that they like to wear. But if the teachers refuse to acknowledge and accept that a student, it means that it affects the person, you know, a way of thinking or concentration at school, because you are being mocked by someone who's supposed to protect you. And then it becomes something else when you are being bullied by other students at the very same school, where they know that your teacher do not accept who you are. So then the family issue. Families are not like prepared. The constitution is in place, but not everybody could deal with. Constitution of South Africa is one thing. And then the second part is self within the spaces where you're supposed to call them home. So also without like parental support, without like your sibling support, without your congregant support, it means you are nothing or nowhere.
Mm.
Then the current issue during COVID period where people were displaced due to homophobia, transphobia, and so on. And it meant that you had to spend time with your violators daily because of your queerness or transness or homo self within those spaces. That became a huge problem because our people are without homes, then people need to be fed, and then people are without jobs. What's the biggest challenge? Unemployment is a big problem because then even if those who are employed, it means that they have to confine or convert within the spaces where they supposedly be working. You need to adjust to all the rules and regulations that are in place that comes with the job. Tone down whatever that you are and become so-called normal, you know? Then it's a problem. So I would say homelessness that took place during the COVID period, unemployment that is ongoing, violence at home that persists, hate crimes that's ever been there, where nobody knows the statistics of a number of people who are killed monthly or yearly because of who they are. Yeah. And then the issue of lack of resources for people to access the education that they deserve as per the constitution that is in place to say everybody should have access to education, blah, 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 blah. So there are other major, maybe personal problems that people are facing that might not, be upfront about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't not mention, and I'm glad that you raised COVID. In our ideal situation, you and I would be face to face with each other. COVID has touched the whole world in so many different ways, and when I think about civil society in countries in Africa, in Asia, in the Pacific, in the Caribbean, you can't help but to think, how are people surviving? How is civil society still managing to sustain their organizations and what they're going through? And just to highlight, Kaleidoscope Trust, which is an LGBT human rights charity, produced some research, and it asked questions of up to 41 organizations in the Commonwealth, which are LGBT plus organizations. And they found the same things. The findings were, staying at home, mental health became a real factor because they were having to stay in homes where they were with those that violated them. Their access to justice, that was at a standstill. So it meant their activism, they couldn't take particular cases to court. The lack of food and shelter, that was rife. And when you think about those who need to access nutritious meals or need to access their medication for HIV and other debilitating conditions, it was damning, and it all was being intensified by the fact that COVID had presented a way where we had to not just socially distance, because I think our LGBTI communities understand what socially distancing mean. We had
exactly
to distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, it all feels like doom and gloom. It feels so heavy. It feels like so many people are coping or trying to cope or finding themselves in really dark, soul-destroying places sometimes. But for UK Black Pride this year, our theme was about home. Our theme was to really look at how we combat loneliness and isolation in this COVID era. And I wanted to ask you, as the Tate's theme is about love and home and your work, what does home and love mean to you?
First of all, I have to say that the work is not about me. The show is about me. Is not about me. This show is for us, and it's about us. and it's projects the work that I have produced. But then I may like each and every person who looks at that work to see themselves and also to reimagine their own spaces on how they, if given a chance to produce work, how your approach would have been like what? How would you have approached the spaces, the people that you know in your surroundings? And if you ask them about like 8 or 10 years ago to be part of your project, how the response would have been like. So let's do not talk about the work as in Zanele Muholi's work. It is our work. And also, I'm inviting each and everybody to say that I see me in these individuals, or there is a missing me in these projects. Because we're talking about like centuries of absence and yet people are present. We're talking like decades of violence and yet people were there. Some survived and some did not. Some came out and some came in and some came out in a way. Some are no longer part of the movement due to a number of reasons. So I have to emphasize or reiterate that the project is not about me, it's about us. Let us all see ourselves at Tate, and let us do not see Tate as an exclusive space, but let's regard Tate as for all. I mean, meaning like for all. We might be the first Black queers in that space who are sharing the tune differently, but let's just like bring all our ancestors whose dreams were to be shown at Tate, you know? Yeah. So that I want to say. And then let's regard Tate as our home in all true senses. You know, let's claim Tate as our home. Because Tate is like sharing or showing that there's a possibility for inclusion, you know, and also there's a possibility for growth in terms of how they may like to include Black voices, include, you know, Black bodies in space. And it's our responsibility to change the library at Tate, to bring forth the content that speaks to us. And also to say to that young Black child who might not know the direction or GPS to Tate, let's hold their hands and say, my child, this is your home too. Yeah, and we need to magnify, you know, those walls. And if they are painted white, let's make sure that we bring that Blackness, that beauty in those walls, working alongside the Tate team. That's my agenda. Because there were times where we were like selecting work and it was really difficult for me. I did not even know where I started. And in 2012, I lost some of my work and I had to start afresh after. And with legally that was in place. So when they said, what happened there and what happened there and what happened there, all I could think of was like, this has been a dream come true for many people. Even if I just show one image at Tate, it will mean enough. It will mean that it's open. It opens up, you know, the galleries or the spaces to our people. So then that's when it's not about me. It's about us. It's about them. It's not othering anybody, but then people should feel at home. Somebody said home is where the heart hurts. And it's true that somebody is where the heart hurts, because there are things that we choose not to deal with at home. And there are things that, as queer people, and there are things that we deal with like daily. Sometimes we divorce ourselves, you know, from our homes because we don't know how to engage with home in that way. Sometimes you feel that everybody, okay, the home will welcome you because the world is taking you serious, But then there are so many people who are so closeted within their homes. They can't even dare to mention or say that this is who they are. And it means that until the home see how the world treats you and how the world perceives you or how the world accepts you, it's there then the home changes, you know, the approach or its perception on the body that they birth. And yet it's not like often like that when you just like present yourself. Because I don't even talk about like coming out processes anymore. I'll talk about like presentation. How do you present? How you presented yourself for people to get the grip of who Lady Phyll is. How I presented myself to the world. Because it's not an easy task. It was never an easy task. And the coming out is never an easy task. For straight people, their coming out process is to produce or introduce the girlfriend or boyfriend home. You have to pause a bit before you even dare to say that this is me and this is my package or my person, and I may like you to treat me like this and that and that and that. You're likely to be rejected before they clap hands and recognize the person that you're with. And also, same thing applies to the person you're with, how she, they, he have to present on the other side with likeliness of feeling some rejection where a person will be made to feel as if they are met. Then it leads to many other things, you know. Yeah. So home is what we construct, family is what we construct sometimes, and then home can be so cold, home can be so warm, and warmth is not about like switching on the heater and feel that artificial warmth, but we're talking warm from within, etc.
Yeah.
So what is home to so many people?
Stop you there, because you know you're talking, and I'm trying not to. So the glasses are coming on, they're coming off, and I can't help but to feel so much emotion as you're talking through some of these things about, you know, what home means. Many of us don't have homes. Many of us have homes which feel so lonely. Many of us are still trying to work out what home actually feels like or should feel like. And I'm just so bowled over with emotion. And you do this to me all the time, and you know it. Our lives are not easy, but they're also so beautiful. Our chosen family is one that we as a collective, we pride ourselves on so much. And I just had to stop you because I needed to just hold that moment. And I really wish that you were here, because I would take your hand and just hold it so I can sit in that moment. And I guess this is what is being created for us, by us, with us, in terms of finding home. And right now, this feels like I'm at home with you in the Tate Exchange, listening to you speak, but also speak so beautifully about the us and not the I, the we and not the me, the collective and not the individual. So I just wanted to pause for that moment and just hold it, because often we move so fast into next things and we don't get to cement and sit in the moment and be able to display the feeling that we want to feel. So thank you. And yeah, what are your hopes? What are your dreams? And what are your fears?
I think that feeling of my dreams, my hopes, my feelings is deeper than what I could say right now. Sometimes we need to be honest with ourselves, you know. You travel the world, you still have to come back home. to your bed, where activism needs to be at your doorstep or before your bed or before you put your comfortable toes or feet on. And there's the whole thing of like, I fight for love, I fight for people to be heard and to be seen. What would happen to me when one day I could not? Where I won't be able to. Remembering that there are so many like us at this moment who were so geared up, who were so fired up, who paved the way for us to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And who can't do it anymore, who are in their 50s, 60s, who are really drained. How do we remember them at this particular period as we'll be talking pride, as we'll be trying to redefine pride? My fears are like real, you know. What happens if one day I wake up and I'm unable to do what I'm able to do? Who will I turn to? Having served and saved so many lives. And we're talking about like concrete, constructed concrete, where you think if somebody hit me on the wall, will I bounce back? If I bounce back, will I bounce back on the left or right? Will I feel comfortable and be whole? So that's my reality. You know, I'm tired now. I have not been able to produce any photos, like unlike before, where I'll produce work daily, where I needed to reach 365 portraits of the year, you know, projecting self in a comfortable way. It's not happening like that, like these days or in the past week, because I just could not do it. And all I needed was like support and for someone to constantly say, keep on, you're gonna get there. These days, I'm like doing completely different kind of work. Like the medium is painting, and I'm also learning to paint. And I so wish that somebody could come to my rescue, like how I've rescued so many people, to say, let's paint together. Let's just fool around together. Let's learn together. Let's fail together. Let's achieve this thing that you want to achieve together. Other fears are real. You wake up broke one day and who will you call? You know, other people are lucky, they could form like GoFundMe type of thing. But we've seen what has happened to other activists, where a person is without a job, without food, where you're not relevant anymore. Being irrelevant is my biggest fear.
Interesting.
Being irrelevant is my biggest fear.
That's really
and also
that.
And also not having knowledge that I should be having also is another greatest fear, not like knowing what's going on. Because there are people who are our contemporaries who cannot access this Zoom that we are having, either because they can't afford it, and two, because they don't know how to operate it. So as people that we are, we need to always fuel ourselves with new knowledges. Learn every day in order for you to be at a par with those who are producing content. And also, there's just so much. There's so much. I wish I could go back to school and further my studies and learn new things. I wish to do so many things. But most importantly, I wish to be happy. Which cannot be bought and cannot be transferred to you by all those who love you. They cannot give you the happiness that you should be having. So I wish to be happy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wish to continue to show love and to be able to open myself out to receive love. And I think in knowing that if I can do that, then I can create what I see as home for me, because UK Black Pride has created a home for so many. The team behind it have created so much, but there are fears, hopes, dreams, aspirations, and certainly fears. Think of a fear for me, Muholi, is about not being able to look at how our communities are resourced. A fear for me personally is people not being able to eat, people not being able to receive the education and the health and support that they require, because those are things that are damaging to communities. But yeah, love. It's nice to have this conversation, but I want you to know that I see you, and I have been seeing you for a long time. I see our people, I see our communities, I see what we can achieve when we come together collectively, when we raise voices, making it absolutely impossible for it to be turned down. I see what we can do in a collective space. And I know for a fact that the coming together of Tate, your exhibition, UK Black Pride, is going to show that young person that they can occupy space and they can stand in that space and they can see themselves. And long may it continue, that this is not something, as I mentioned, that is performative, but is real, it's meaningful, and that we continue to see ourselves in every sphere, every place which we haven't historically been seeing ourselves. You know, you talk about documentation in nearly every interview that I've watched of yours. You talk about documentation when you and I have met in person, because to see ourselves is so important. And of course, it may cause us harm, but will also cause us to be joyful and to be seen. Because when you can't see it, you can't change it, you can't do it, you can't be it.
You know, talking about like being seen and also opening up spaces, I've done like a whole lot. All that I've done had its own flaws. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. It has not been as glossy as it may seem. One of the things that I've done to ensure that there is visibility of our people was to mobilize the community and to travel with them, and to ensure that some of the people who are in my documentaries were at spaces where the work was shown.
Mm.
I've done that religiously. And it was my wish that the people that had access before others could continue to do the same too. Not to say that you are you and therefore why do you have to care about other people?
Mm.
So for me, what hurt me most was to think of like how people could access spaces and become selfish about about things, like on how they do things. And I had a show in 2017 in New York, and I moved with a number of people, because in my headspace I kept on having this like the team, the group work, but not that people were at the same level. To say that, okay, now we're in New York and another space will be possible, another person would do it differently, because I'm talking like different individuals who are queerly talented. And they break spaces in ways that other people have never seen it before. And when I have a show, and also I'll bring others, And I knew that that was not enough. And in other instances, it could become like the same individuals. And I couldn't finish more than 200 people that I photographed over a period of time. Other than that, I wish to make sure that they see where the work was going to and how the viewers appreciated them and how the viewers wanted to hear from them than me. Say, for instance, you are in my Faces and Phases, and people may like to know who Lady Phyll is and what made you participate in the project, you know? But that was just my dream and my agenda, not the very same people's dream and agenda. Others, it will be so difficult to decide what to do before the other. Do you give people money or do you fly them? Between the stomach and that flight were two like different and huge. So I could say that with all that I have done, had its own challenges, that I'm still like trying to figure out a plan on how things would have been done like differently. Because I kept on saying that this isn't about me. This is not about me. I'm just like trying. I don't know how other people did it before me because I didn't even have access to that visual content before me, you know? All I knew was that it was done by the other. And in this instance, I wanted to do it like differently to ensure that our people had access to spaces that they never had before, because those who were there before me, also they were pushing a different kind of agenda, which made sense, but then each and every one comes with a different one. And it's worked like continuously.
Well, look, you know, Muholi, I want to really thank you for your work and the work you have been doing with others. But I want to personally thank you for what you have done and for also opening doors, creating spaces, bringing people with you, remembering those that have come before you and thinking about those of tomorrow. You know, there is that saying that I talk about, you don't inherit this land from your parents, you borrow it from the next generation. So it is so important that we remember, we acknowledge, we think about the us and the we, but of course that next generation, which are so pivotal and crucial in fighting for the equality, the equity, the justice and the freedoms that they rightfully deserve and need. Now, I know this collection, this collaboration with Tate's exchange is going to be so amazing and so wonderful. And I want everyone to enjoy it because, as you said, it's for us. Stand in that space and see us, see ourselves. And for that is rich.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you too for your time. Yeah,
No,
and receiving the call as well.
Thank you very much for that call because it means so much to the whole of UK Black Pride. It really does. So everyone, enjoy the exhibition. You've heard from Muholi. There's still so much to say. Whether you have questions, this is a week-long activity of events that will be taking place. And it's your event, it's your space. So just think about your love and your home. And thank you for making this time to speak with UK Black Pride with Tate Exchange. And please stay safe and stay well. And I love you dearly. I'm still waiting for you to make me that ancestral wife, but I'm still waiting. There's no ring on the finger. So when you're ready, I'm here.
It's okay. I'll be seeing you soon. And thank you so much once again to you and your team and everybody.
Okay. Much love.
Cool.
you.
Salute. Bye.
Bye.